tour operators to create a multitude of itineraries for longer duration, multiple journeys, and thus increased income opportunities. During 2020, we will conduct a series of webinars highlighting several themes of Canada. Today's webinar will help you create year-round self-drive itineraries that merge effortlessly with leisure-based travel, thrilling out of the ordinary experiences that make a visit to Canada unique during spring, summer, fall, or winter. Today, let's explore this magical destination called Canada from behind the wheels. Before proceeding with our webinar, I would like to highlight a few important instructions in brief. Audience can feel free to click on any of the widgets available at the bottom of their screens to know the corresponding information the particular widget is carrying. Please feel free to ask any questions during the course of webinar pertaining to the topic by clicking on the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Today, we have amongst us Mr. Carl Baz, Managing Director, Destination Canada, India, GSA. Mr. Baz, an industry professional with an unconventional and innovative approach, has undertaken various marketing communications, international trade and finance workshops and programs during the last 28 years through various global and Indian educational institutions. He is also actively involved as a guest lecturer on travel and tourism at various educational institutions in his hometown, Mumbai. Over to you, Mr. Baz. Please unmute. Yeah.
Thank you, Murari, and thank you to all our viewers that have logged in. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, welcome to this particular session on road trips road trips covering the west coast of Canada. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor to once again be a part of Informa Markets content distribution. I'm very grateful to the support that we receive from the IRCC team at the Canadian High Commission here in New Delhi. Grateful for the support we receive from Mr. Arun Pandya at Air Canada, and of course, even the private sector, which includes Ms. Tekla Myra representing their core hotels. I'd like to thank our colleagues in various associations from TAI, from TAFE, from ETA, from OTOAI, from SCOL, and all the other associations on a local level as well, the clubs, the chapters, for their continued support in promoting Destination Canada, and in particular in supporting this particular situation where we find ourselves during these COVID times. I know it's challenging for people to come on to a webinar. There's a lot of webinar fatigue out there in the markets, but to see so many of you come on regularly, I think at the last count, we had over 500 people that logged in at various intervals throughout the webinar. And I'm hopeful that even today we will continue to drive those large numbers. I'm confident that the content that we distribute using these online platforms is still of interest to all of you, despite the situation that we're faced with. I know all of you are pressed for time with so many webinars and having to handle your business online, and we are grateful that you give us this opportunity. And I just want to close by thanking our friends who have come on today. We have several veterans from the industry who've got special questions that they will pose, besides the questions that come from all of you on the floor, as we call it. But we have industry veterans that have joined us this afternoon that have specific questions for our panel. I would now like to take the opportunity to welcome Ms. Jackie McLean from Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, which is the IRCC team here at New Delhi at the Canadian High Commission. Jackie, welcome, and thank you for supporting our cause once again. Over to you, Jackie.
Thank you, Carl, and Destination Canada. It's always really important for us to engage with you folks regarding travel restrictions to Canada in this very challenging time for a lot of travel agents. So I do have some changes that were recently announced that I'm happy to provide today. It's sometimes it can be a bit complex regarding how the restrictions are being relaxed. So I do want to indicate that these are current as of today, but they do change often. So I will keep on updating the presentation as information and as our travel restrictions are relaxed. So, and I'm going to try and leave a lot of time for all of your questions at the end in case you have specific questions regarding something that you're obtaining a lot of questions from your travelers regarding. So the first slide is basically information. Actually, I'll just go to the first slide about the travel restrictions. So currently, most people are not able to travel to Canada, and we're going to look at under different sections who can travel. So workers, some students, and there's a recent announcement regarding students, so we can go through what that means. Some visitors, and again, that's been relaxed. So we have not just immediate family members, but also extended family members. And then somehow some of our processing has changed within IRCC and conditions before and after traveling to Canada. So the first one are the restrictions to Canada. And that is that most people that have a temporary resident visa that are going for tourism purposes cannot travel at this time. So if you have to be going to Canada for an essential purpose, and the exemptions, travel restrictions are staying in place until the end of this month. So they usually look at how can we update them at the beginning of each month. So right now, it's anyone that has an essential reason for being in Canada, and then we further defined what we consider to be essential. So the next slide is on who has the right to enter Canada regardless if there is essential. So obviously Canadian citizens and permanent residents, people registered under the Indian Act, protected persons, and then that's where we want to get into the detail of who is going for essential reasons, which are non-discretionary, and then we divide that between United States and other parts of the world. So the next slide is regarding the types of foreign workers, students, immediate and extended family member, and who requires Government of Canada approval, which is really important to understand because we get a lot of requests from people that actually don't require Government of Canada approval. So next slide. So workers, a worker who has a valid work permit and has work in Canada and has a visa to travel there will be allowed to enter Canada and be considered to have essential reason for being in Canada. So if they have worked in Canada before and they are returning, absolutely. And if they have an employer or open work permit and they have a job that they can engage in after their quarantine period, they will be considered essential travelers. Next one is we are going to be looking at people who have submitted their application, which categories are essential workers. So I've divided it into 3 categories and listed, these are particular national occupation codes. So when somebody applies for a work permit, they will say, this is the job that I have. And those ones will be pulled out of our inventory to be processed on a more urgent basis because they will meet the travel exemptions. So supply chain, agricultural, truck drivers, and then anyone in the health industry primarily. And then we also have that new exemption for film and television industry. So it's folks that are traveling to be in a film, Bollywood stars, they may be exempt from the travel restrictions. Next slide. So there's also workers that don't require a work permit, and those folks would be people that are normally travel as business visitors, And so there are some business visitors who are exempt from obtaining a work permit and are exempt from the travel restrictions. And so those would be emergency workers, some healthcare students, marine vessels, and after sales service. So we do have a number of people that have shipped equipment to Canada and it's waiting for installation or it's waiting for repair. Those folks will be exempt from the travel restrictions. So that is actually fairly new. We just received the exemption on after sales service for installation as of yesterday. So that's great news for people that can now travel to complete that work. Next slide. So exemptions to travel restrictions for international students. And this is a very important piece because there's a lot of students that really are anxious to get to Canada and start studying at least in the same time zone. So, you know, I understand the challenges of working when you are in a different time zone, having done it for 5 months. So I understand that it can be challenging for students. So what the government has done is worked with our provincial and territorial governments to look at whether we have designated learning institutions that can put in a readiness plan. And a readiness plan consists of being able to provide information to students before they arrive regarding the requirements about quarantining, symptoms of COVID. They may even be able to assist them with their essential needs during their quarantine time in order to be able to make sure that we can bring back international students in a safe designated learning institutions will be published. We probably won't get to see the list any sooner than everyone else. So I have no inside information regarding which institutions it might be, but stay tuned for that. And at that point in time, those students will be able to travel to Canada. What I'm going to get at the end of the presentation to VAX and what we're processing at the mission, because I know a lot of questions will be like, oh, so the travel exemptions are, travel restrictions are being relaxed, but currently the VACs are closed and the mission isn't processing a lot of visas. So I will get that at the end of my presentation, but just to inform you that students can travel from those institutions regardless of when their study permit was issued after October 20th. Next slide. So visitors and the definition of immediate family member. So it's spouse, common law partner, child under the age of 22, parent and step-parent, and a spouse's dependent child or a spouse's step-parent, and those folks' dependent children. So really anyone that is going as a grandparent to visit their child, as a parent to go visit their child, provided the person that their family member in Canada is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, and they have a visa, because that's very important. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm exempt from the travel restriction, I can go to Canada. They still have to meet all the requirements, including having a visa. So those folks do not require additional authorization. They may travel to Canada, but should present to the airlines evidence of their family member being in Canada and what their status is, because it's only if the status of their immediate family member is a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident that they are exempt. Next slide. So the extended family member definition came in on the 8th of October, and this is designed for people that perhaps don't have children or parents that can visit them. They're in a situation where they need assistance because they're need critical care, as an example. So we've had a number of situations where we have to say, use some discretion regarding who should be exempt from the travel restrictions. And that would obviously be somebody that is a sibling that is going to see their sister who, requires care. So it has to be for an essential purpose. It still has to be for an essential purpose. So it can't just be, oh, I'm going to visit my brother or sister in Canada and we're going to hang out for the weekend and do some tourist things? No, it has to be for a critical reason, and that person, that extended family member, will require authorization. So it just kind of gives an example of who is an extended family member, and one of them is if you're in an exclusive dating relationship. So for those folks that haven't seen each other, that are sick and tired of doing the Skype thing, they can now go to Canada and reunite with their partner in Canada. It also could consider grandchildren, siblings, and grandparents. Next slide. So immediate family member of a temporary resident. I just wanted to kind of very clearly put by having these two columns, who requires authorization and who doesn't. So again, immediate family members of a temporary resident require authorization, as do extended family members of a permanent resident and Canadian citizen. They also will require a valid passport. They have to be coming for 15 days or more. And if they are coming for 15 days or less, it will be essential. Next slide. So we also introduced entry for compassionate reasons. And so kind of one thing that I've been dealing a lot with are the really heart-wrenching situations of people that want to go to Canada to make sure that they're able to perform last rites to their son or daughter, perhaps that has been in an accident in Canada and has been killed. And unfortunately, we've been having to say that it's not essential at this point in time. I personally always thought that it was fairly essential, but when you're dealing with a pandemic, it's very difficult to decide who can meet the exemptions and who isn't. So I'm very pleased to announce that now people in this situation can submit a form along with their quarantine plan, or if they have a plan to say, for example, attend a funeral or perform last rites, and require a short period of time where they don't want to quarantine, or really should, they can talk to the public health in Canada to make sure that they're exempt from their quarantine for a short period of time in order to perform that. So it's not actually IRCC immigration that gives that okay. It goes through public health in Canada. And then after the public health says, yes, we agree to this, and they've provided evidence that the person, most of the times it's because of a critical illness or a death in the family, then they can apply for a visa. Send us a message. There's an email on, I'll show you at the end of the presentation, that people can send a message to, and just indicate that for this reason they require a visa. And we hope to be able to issue those visas, what we call foil-less, so that they won't have to submit their passport to our office, but be able to travel to Canada on an urgent basis without the visa in their passport. Next slide. So permanent resident without a permanent resident card, or confirmation of permanent resident holders. Right now, people who have a permanent resident card or have what we call a permanent resident travel document can travel to Canada. Where we have some situations of people that don't have a permanent resident card, maybe they lost it once they got to India or another country, they normally would apply for a permanent resident travel document, but because the VACs are not open, what they can do is they can email their application. And very similar to the people that will receive a foil-less visa, the same will be done for a permanent resident travel document holder. So it will be issued in the system, they'll receive a board message, and then they can travel to Canada without that card and without the permanent resident travel document. Next slide. So we have confirmation of permanent resident holders, and we have a situation where their visa may be expired and some are not expired. So if they are not expired, you still may not be able to travel to Canada to become a permanent resident at this time, unless you have an immediate family member in Canada that has sponsored you as a permanent resident. So it's immediate family members, not economic classes, that will be issuing at this time as a priority. So if some people have applied under Canada Experience class, under one of the provincial nominee programs. At this time, if they receive a confirmation of permanent residence, they will not be able to travel unless they have that immediate family member that has sponsored them. We have a number of people that have an expired confirmation of permanent resident document. And in those situations, we are testing out, again, FOIL-less visas to be able to give them board messages so that they can travel to Canada. In most situations, it will be to reunite with family members. Next slide. Transit visas. I added this slide because I had some questions the last time. So I just want to be clear that right now, if you've received a transit visa, it was probably for a flight long before the pandemic hit, in which case it's probably not valid anymore because that was in particular to that flight. However, going forward, we will be issuing transit visas, and there's 2 requirements. Still must complete biometrics, so the vax must be open to complete the biometrics. They are payment exempt, but do require biometrics, and that they have to stay within the area of an airport before transiting to another country. They should also meet the requirements of the other country in order to transit. So if another country has stricter guidelines, then they should also make sure that they can enter. Okay, next slide. So our processing changes. Right now, online applications are only being taken because the VACs are closed. We're not receiving paper submissions. And should the VACs reopen, the online submission will continue until the end of January. Right now, our published processing times are not accurate because of we are prioritizing those people that can enter Canada that are exempt. We are starting, and this is probably the most exciting thing on this slide, is we are starting incremental restart of the visa application centers. So starting next week, we will be accepting passports from centers. Can submit their passports to the courier, giving them instructions on how to submit their passport via the courier, and then those will be sent to our office. We do absolutely have processing delays, but many of us have now returned to the mission from Canada, and we're working hard to get the mission back up and running. We're bringing in staff on teams, and we hope to be able to try and get as many visas out as possible prior to the VACs fully reopening. Anyone that, we will give it priority to those that are exempt. We have seen an increase in fraud. So there are people that will come thinking that they have been issued a visa. The fakes are very, very good. A couple times I've had to look in the system because I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if that's real or not. The fraudsters are getting very good at visas. I would encourage you that when you're talking to people that they're traveling with, ask them, how did you pay for this visa? If they paid through submitting money into somebody's bank account, that wasn't us. All of our fees are online and have to be paid online. So do be aware that there are fake visas out there, and unfortunately some people have been taken advantage of. Next slide. So traveling to Canada, you must have a health check by the airline. So they often have a questionnaire that they'll have you complete, just making sure that you haven't have symptoms of COVID, or that you haven't been around someone that has had symptoms of COVID. Of course, the quarantine is extremely important for 14 days to make sure that you can have deliveries of your food and to make sure that you respect the quarantine plan, because the fines are fairly extensive if you break quarantine. So next, and you must wear a mask. So that's just the fine, $750,000 or 6 months imprisonment, and you may be found inadmissible to enter Canada in the future. Again, I'm just going to indicate that for some cases, there might be Public Health Agency of Canada exemptions. So those cases where they're visiting critical ill, or somebody in the family has passed away. Next slide. So this is information. A lot of people, if they're searching how do I apply for a visa, will get our generic temporary resident visa page. I would encourage you to ask your clients to search for the canada.ca/CC COVID-19 page. That will give the special provisions that are now in place. We also recognize that sometimes it's difficult to follow all of the instructions on the online application. So we encourage you to scan that QR code and share it with clients so that they can apply online and use the step-by-step guide. We are updating our social media regularly, so please do continue to follow us on social media. I thought I would just kind of give this as a quick page for you to follow, because a lot of times people might be asking, where do I go to get a visa when I'm trying to book a flight? So for case-specific inquiries, you can email us at Delhi Immigration. For the permanent resident travel document that are going FOIList, we have another email address. And then for travel exemptions, the folks that require the additional authorization, there's a travel exemption email address for the situations that I listed above: immediate family members of temporary resident, extended family members of Canadian citizen permanent residents, and then of course for compassionate and humanitarian after they've received the approval from Canada Public Health. So that is all I have, and I'm sure that there might be a few questions, so I will end it there and try and answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Jackie. The presentation was indeed quite informative. We are all now well versed on the visa front.
Very much for arranging this beautiful session. I have been personally following up all the sessions that has been done in the past as well. I would like to compliment Informa Markets as well as team of Mr. Carl Vaz to having been, ensuring that the appropriate information and knowledge has been given to trade partners. Before I just had a couple of questions in my mind, which I had jotted it down. Honestly, I think the presentation which was given by Jackie covered quite a bit of it. But yes, I would still probably want to just ask the same. And before I ask my question, pardon me, but I would like to again compliment Jackie. You have a beautiful painting in your background. I think it's mother and daughter, and there is a very nice artwork as well, which again seems to be kind of something influenced by Indian. I could not help but notice those things on your background. So
I have to say, this was done the last time I was in India. That's how young my kids were 12 years ago.
Lovely. Okay. So again, coming back to business. So my first question, while yes, you've been quite clear in mentioning that it's gonna take a while where it comes to your normal visit visa processing being started, but is there any time frame or anything that you can advise? When do you intend to start kind of a thing? And are there gonna be any new guidelines which people have to keep in mind?
I don't have any inside information, but this is personally how I would see that Canada, and based on what has been done in the past, how the reaction is going to be. I think they're going to continue to look at the COVID statistics in Canada and kind of basically base how they're going to reopen on whether or not the healthcare system can be able to cope with the amount of COVID cases. So I think we all recognize that COVID could be around for a while and that the world doesn't stop turning. So we are taking obviously an incremental approach. And I would say that, we're very, very, very happy that we're now going to look at international students entering for, I think you just have to make sure that you have the right checks and balances at the border. So I know in other countries are looking at how long does somebody have to stay quarantined? Are there other things that we can do regarding COVID testing? So I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did, but I can only imagine that it's going to continue down kind of an incremental approach to reopening.
Awesome, awesome. So while you mentioned, about student movement, so like, say for example, if a student has like online classes in Canada for which the college has given a letter, but is unable because of the time difference is unable to attend it conveniently and all. So are is Canada open for such students to go down to Canada?
So that was a very typical question, I think, up until the more recent announcement. So I think what they're realizing is, because the most of the institutions were closed, this was kind of a way to get students to still consider studying in Canada and get through this really difficult time by starting to study, no different than all the students in Canada had to do because the institutions were not open. However, we're transitioning to this designated learning institution where we know that the readiness plan will be in place. So regardless if you're studying online and have connectivity issues, if you are going to this learning institution, which will have quarantine plans in place, make sure that the international students understand the importance of it, that they have a plan should somebody contract COVID or be in contact with COVID. So it was working very closely with the provinces and territories on this, and going forward, it's going to depend on if your designated learning institute that you're destined to has that plan, you will be allowed to go to Canada. So we're only a few days away from that. So I would kind of disregard it was kind of difficult to say, oh, well, my connectivity doesn't, well, can you go somewhere else? Well, can you do this? So it was difficult for the institutions and for the students during that time to really understand and take the risk of booking a flight and not be able to for the designated learning institute list and then look at booking their flight after that time.
Okay, lovely. So okay, these were mainly the questions in regards to probably people who I would say that they have to apply for a new visa. What about people who already have an existing visa? I mean, like if someone has an existing visa and have got family over there, usually we get quite a bit of requests where the kids are in Canada and the parents are right now in India, and it's really been a long time now that they visited their kids, and yeah, I mean they are looking forward to be spending some time with them. Do you think these norms do you foresee these norms getting relaxed? Any particular comment or anything that you would like to share?
So for quite some time now, that if you have children in Canada that are Canadian citizens and permanent residents, you can go to Canada. So I'm assuming you might be talking about parents that are going to visit their child in Canada that's a study permit holder or work permit holder. So the same type, it has to be for an essential reason. So it could be that I have young children, I'm not able to work, I need my parents to come here because it's obviously safer, there's daycares that might not be open, whatever the essential reason is, but they will require a letter indicating that they have an essential reason for going to Canada to visit their son or daughter who is a temporary resident. So as far as those that are going to visit their permanent resident and Canadian citizen children, I applaud them for going in the middle of winter. They must really miss their kids, but they can absolutely go.
Yeah. So Jackie, just wanted to clarify because while I am aware that I think the guidelines were relaxed where if the kids have a PR holder or a work permit about Canada, the parents can visit them. But I think there was a clause that they have to travel together. So now, I just want to ensure that okay, if the kids are not here, the kids are all in Canada, and if the parents they just have a normal visit visa for Canada, can they still travel on basis of probably a visa copy or a work permit copy of the child along with maybe a letter that they are inviting their parents over to Canada?
So there is a list of documents on our website that they should show the airline. So it's important that you, and I can include it in my next presentation because I think it's a good thing to have. But they should have a copy of their child's status in Canada. So a Canadian citizenship card, a Canadian passport, or a permanent resident card. And then usually on the Indian passport, on the back page, it'll show who your parents are. So if they have still an Indian passport, then they can show, these are my parents. So that should show that what their child status is in Canada and also that their relationship. So if they don't have that, a birth certificate would suffice. And there's no requirement for a letter because it does not have to be for essential reasons. It just have to show the airline that, yes, I'm going to Canada to see my son or my daughter who is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident.
Oh, okay, I think that's a good amount of information. Now, the last question from my side, which specifically was given to me by my ops team. So do we require the applicant's signature on the application form and family information form while we upload the documents online Canada visa website?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, but the application is now online, right? But it has to, we have to know that the person is absolutely aware of what is being signed. So we have the statutory questions that will ask them, have you ever been arrested? Do you have any criminal background? Have you ever been refused a visa? That's really important that those applicants know what they're signing and what it means. So if there's very few things that will indicate that you have a complete application, but one of them is a signature on the application form and a payment. So as long as we have the application form with the signature and the payment, basically we have an application to look at. Without that, we don't consider it an application.
That should be all from my side where IRCC is concerned. And thank you so very much, Jackie. A pleasure speaking to you, and it was quite an informative session so far.
Thank you. Pranav. The next question is from Mr. JP Singh, COO, Retail and Leisure, Ibix Cash Travels and Holidays. Mr. Singh, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, a very good afternoon to all of you. I would like to thank Carl, Jackie, and the entire team for conducting this webinar. Jackie's presentation was quite informative. Thank you so much for your presentation, Jackie.
No problem.
So, I want to seek clarity on the tourist visa. My first question is, by when do we expect consulate to resume processing of tourist visas?
Okay, so a tourist visa could be for visiting a family member in Canada. It could be to perform after sales service. It could be for an emergency reason. So in those situations, we are processing them. But we are processing visas where you have you're exempt from the travel restrictions. Those are the visas that we are prioritizing. So anyone else, so prior to our office closing, not closing, but the VAX closing, I should say, not our office closing. Prior to the VAX closing, we had a number of people that we sent passport request letters to. We will be actioning those ones that we've sent a passport request letter to, as well as anybody who has been processed after the pandemic who meets the requirements of travel. So there will be people that will be getting their visas relatively soon. We're starting this the courier service next week. But just in every passport we send back, it will be, yes, you have your visa, but please make sure that you are exempt from the travel restrictions. The visa is not, if you're going for tourism, you will not be allowed entry. So we will put that pamphlet with all of the passports that we return. So to answer your question, we're processing temporary resident visas, but only for the categories, prioritizing the categories where people can travel to Canada.
Great. My second question is, those who have valid tourist visa and are unable to utilize the same due to embargo, Will they be allowed an extension?
Yes. So I think none of us expected this to happen. So far, there has not been anything put in place to say that an extension of how long the travel restrictions are in place will be extended to the visa. Quite some time ago, Canada has been probably one of the more generous countries in issuing 10-year multiple entry visas for a long period of time. And as Carl stressed, Canada is not just a place you can visit one time, you have to visit multiple times. So that's why we issued long-term visas. So we're hopeful that many of those visas will still be valid, despite the fact that for a certain period of time, people will not have been able to enter Canada. So I think there's very few that have ever received a single entry visa.
Third question is,
Yeah.
sorry, Murari. My third question is, the travelers who are exempted from the travel restriction, if they want to travel, will they require any additional health insurance document as a prerequisite for obtaining that visa?
So it depends on the category you're applying under. Of course, if you're applying for what we call a parent and grandparent visa, there is a requirement for health insurance. We also strongly encourage people, anyone traveling to another country, and Canada is no exception, that they have the appropriate insurance. We do take it into consideration when processing applications, particularly for people that we think may be inadmissible on health reasons, not inadmissible, but might be because of the fact that they're elderly or, and I'm talking like really elderly, like not just somebody that is my age or, you know, in their 60s or 70s. You know, obviously somebody that is, you know, in a vulnerable stage, they should definitely make sure that they have health insurance.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Singh. Jackie, Kunal really responded some good questions. Thank you again, Jackie. Up next, we have Mr. Arun Pandya, General Manager, India Air Canada, who is responsible for transporting us all the way to Canada seamlessly. Mr. Pandya, a person with a vast area of experience of 30 years in service sector across international markets, India, startups, has held senior positions in some lead MNCs. His key areas of experience have been in sales and marketing, financial and project planning, distribution, brand management, government relations, innovation, and incubation. Mr. Pandya, please. Over to you, Mr. Pandya. Mr. Pandya, can you please unmute yourself? Yeah. Can you please unmute yourself, sir? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much, Murari. I'm very happy to be back on the Destination Canada webinar. This is an initiative which I can very easily attribute to a fantastic thing that Carl is doing in attracting back people to travel to Canada. Now, we know that the pandemic has taken its toll and many borders are still closed. Although Air Canada has started its flights, but there is a very, very strict eligibility criteria, which Jackie had highlighted, because of which there are restrictions on who can travel and who can't travel. So considering that, so we have right now 4 flights to Toronto direct and 3 flights to Vancouver direct. And progressively, as the borders open, I am sure Air Canada is going to scale up the number of flights that will take passengers to Canada. The one thing that has emerged very, very strongly, and I must share it with you. So internally, we do our own analytics. And in our analytics, what is emerging is that VFR traffic in both directions are actually waiting to travel the moment the borders open up. And I think this is actually a result of lockdowns, inability to travel, and not see your loved ones, not see your friends, and to take a break. All this then really results in the things that Destination Canada is doing to make that travel, when it happens, more memorable and more experiential. Having said that, may I request for the films and the slides to be shown as part of my presentation. I want to start with this slide, which is basically these are 4 slides of IATA, and not Air Canada slides, but IATA has done a very good research in talking about and evaluating the risk of people traveling by air. So as you can see, the risk of contracting COVID-19 on a flight is very low. Can we see the next slide, please? Murali, can you roll the slides, please?
Yeah. We got the next slide.
So 1.2 billion passengers have traveled since the start of 2020. Only 44 cases reported of confirmed, probable, or potential transmission associated with the flight, which is equal to 1 in 27 million. I mean, just look at the risk factor. It is so very low and it is so free, I would say, that this should act fraternity that is part of this webinar. All this should come as a good USP to inspire confidence in people who come to you to book their travel and tell them that yes, it is safe to travel. May I see the next slide, please? So even if 90% of cases were unreported, the risk remains very low at 1 in 2.7 million. Can you imagine this kind of analytics that IATA has put together for the entire world? The last slide, please, on this IATA. There is a fourth slide. And most of these 44 cases happened before mask wearing or biosafety measures were put in place. So before the biosafety measures were put in place, distancing, wearing a mask, using sanitizers. So all these 44 cases were reported before that. Safety is always our number one priority. I mean, this is what IATA is saying, and this is what Air Canada has been saying all along. We restarted our flights to many, many countries. We have started flying to many countries, depending on how liberalized these countries become in letting these flights to come in. Now I would like to show you the films that we have been using to communicate that Air Canada and Canada are open for travel. Murari, can I see the clips, please? Thank you. I want to particularly talk about the Clean Care Plus video that you saw. So what I want to highlight about our key Clean Care Plus is that Air Canada is extremely puts a lot of emphasis and is extremely focused on the cleanliness and the hygiene of our aircrafts, as well as our check-in areas, etc. So, just for information, Air Canada has flown into all those countries where we are flying to, special equipment from Canada that is used to sanitizing the aircraft before the first passenger boards. So this is a special equipment that is being brought in, and it's in every country where we are flying to, and you can actually have, when you enter the aircraft, you will feel that yes, it is completely safe to enter the aircraft. It's being completely sanitized. So we put a lot of emphasis during this period and of course even before, but right now the protocol is even more strict in terms of sanitizing because of COVID-19. So we have gone really beyond even the WHO guidelines in that sense. I would also like to take this opportunity to mention that CAR has a very big focus on reinventing the traffic for Canada as soon as the borders open. And Air Canada has a very, very strong commitment to Destination Canada in every initiative that they will take to boost the traffic, stimulate the traffic. So, if the borders open, let us say by January, then the summer programs, I believe, will be in place. Air Canada will partner with Destination Canada in India to look at various probabilities and various opportunities to work together to move. So that is a commitment that Air Canada and Destination Canada have mutually with each other. So really happy with this webinar. Really happy. There are a few soft copies of items that Conrad has put for distribution if somebody wants to take them. I don't know how this works, but these slides of IATA are also part of that. Also, our schedule for October and November, and we will every webinar keep updating that for the future months. So that is, so our flights are there even till March next year, but of course they're all subject to approval by DGCA. And I must say DGCA has been very, very proactive in this area. I'm very positive about helping airlines to fly in for taking passengers who meet the eligibility criteria. Thank you very much, Carl. Thank you very much, Destination Canada. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Quite informative presentation, Mr. Padia. You mentioned this case just 1 in 2.7 million and only 44 cases. We'll be taking up few questions from for you. And the first question is from Mr. Pradeep Lulla. Mr. Lulla, can I have you? Mr. Pradeep Lulla?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Mr. Lulla, just a minute. CEO of Quippet Travels and acting president of Travel Agents Federation of India, TAFI. Mr. Lulla, please. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, my question is basically, first, Mr. Pandya, very good presentation. Glad to know that you're observing all these measures to keep safety and everything, and also that you almost have a daily flight to Canada now to Vancouver and to Toronto, 4 and 3. And with this, my actual question is of the concern of the travel agents, basically, as it was also asked by my colleague earlier, was the refunds. You know, a lot of refunds basically have yet not been paid to our travel agents. And going forward, wanted to know what would be your policy on this refunds. Now, basically, earlier, I think it was, you had answered that it was sub judice, but now basically as, you know, the law of the land, the Supreme Court has given its judgment. So have you actually devised a policy so that it could be easy for our members to sell Air Canada tickets and also maintain the credibility with the passengers?
Absolutely. So the Honorable Supreme Court's
Hello.
directive
Can you
and
hear me?
order, which has been, yeah, can you hear me now? Hello? Mr. Lula, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Your voice is getting a little distorted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Yes, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So we will absolutely
Yeah,
honor
it's coming distorted, but
the
yes,
Supreme Court's
I
order.
can hear you.
We are very compliant. DGCA has issued the guidelines based on the Supreme Court order, and what we have done is we structured based on those guidelines. We have structured, I would call it, the buckets of refunds, and we will execute and implement that order to the T.
Okay.
That is an assurance from Air Canada. Okay.
Okay. So that was the concern, and very glad to hear that you will order the DGCA guidelines as being given to you. So that was actually a major question, and
Absolutely.
of course we also hope opening for Canada borders to open so that we can basically send our tourists over there and maintain a healthy traffic. So thank you very much, Mr. Pandya. This was the only question I had.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
the other was also on,
Thank you,
on
Mr.
the that, you know, whatever the SOPs are, of course, Jackie has answered that it's not concerning Air Canada. But even from the airlines, you know, if we get the updatement to our association TAFE, we can also on dynamic basis distribute the information. You know, even from the airlines. You know.
Yeah. So we have regular flash which we send, and we send it to the associations also and its members also. So in case there's somebody who's not getting it, please feel free to reach out to me and I will put you on the mailing list.
Thank you, Mr. Pandya. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Mr.
Hello,
Pandya,
Anup.
next question is from Mr. Anup Kanuga, Director, Visa Travels and Managing Committee member and Chairman, Tourism Council of Travel Agents Association of India. Mr. Kanuga, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to all the panelists and
Hello.
attendees. Hi. Yeah, can I be heard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are audible completely.
Arunji, one quick question to you. Are there any plans to start bubble flights to Mumbai? Because this year we foresee a good amount of Canadian citizens and PRs of Indian origin who will want to visit India in the winter months. And like last year, October to March, you all had 5 flights a week. So maybe this year, if you could even begin with 2 flights, because the problem with Delhi flights is they all arrive at night at 8 p.m. You don't get a connecting flight to Bombay. The person has to stay the whole night at the airport. So, I mean, having at least 2 flights a week to Bombay, I think for the winter months would get you good business.
So if you look at the GDS, you will find flights to Mumbai from December.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah.
That's great news.
Not from November, not in October, but from December. It's already on the GDS.
Okay. Okay, that's also how many? 5 times a week?
We're looking at 4.
4 times. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pandya, Mr. Rula, and Mr. Kanuga. Next, we will further check out what unique products Canada has in store for us. May I please again welcome Mr. Baz to further explain about the exclusive offerings from the Canada. Mr. Baz, please. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Murari. It's a pleasure and honor to be back here. I just want to thank our panelists that came in, Jackie McLean and Mr. Arun Pandya, for sharing their knowledge and their information with our members. I want to thank representatives of the associations that came on a little earlier and had their questions. Mr. Pradeep Lulla, we had Mr. Anup Kanuga, we had Mr. Kunal Sampath. We had several people coming in a little earlier, so I want to thank them. We still have more friends. We have coming up a little later, Subramaniam from Chennai. I believe we also have Mr. Jagat Mehta, president of ETA, that's also joining us in due course. We also have some eminent questions that will come in from our esteemed travel trade partners that are also logged in. So stay tuned for that. In the meanwhile, before I introduce a member of my team, Ms. Carol Paul, I just want to talk about what you're about to see on your screens. It's a presentation that's been specifically tailored for the promotion of road trips across Western Canada. Now, when you think about road trips, what comes into mind, and for those of you who may not have been on the last webinar that covered the East Coast, what comes in mind is usually driving a car. But I would like you to think a little bit more. It's not only about a car. It's not only about an SUV. It can even be by a motorbike in the summer months. It can even be by an RV, a recreational van, or a camper. It can also be a convoy. It can also be a private van hired by you for your family. It is important to know that going forward, the concept of seat in coaches is more or less kept on a back burner, at least for the next year and a half or 2 years. I think many of us are very clear that when leisure tourism starts, it needs to focus on FIT travel and small groups or small families. And therefore, the concept of the large coaches of 52 seats or thereabouts is really something that people may not be keen to do. And even if you're going to use a coach, there's going to be a lot of distancing between the seats, which will make the whole product unviable. So it's important that you as travel agents and tour operators that are on the webinar this afternoon understand that catering to the new FIT customers' requirements, be it at a luxury end or a mid-size segment end, mid-price segment end, is really about creating experiences where they can self-discover. And the self-discovery will come through road trips. And like I said, road trips need not just be in an SUV or a car. It can be all sorts of modes of transport. You can mix and match with air travel. You can mix and match even with a cruise. So you can arrive by air, do a road trip, take a sea cruise, do a road trip again, and then fly back by air. So it's all about bringing these combinations of experiences together. Carol, who will come up shortly, we have a video that she will screen, and then after that, Carol is going to talk about the West Coast road trips, which include British Columbia and, of course, Alberta province. There are some itineraries that we have that go to Saskatchewan that Jackie McLean so affectionately sent to me, but we also have road trips that go into Manitoba, but we will cover these aspects in our next webinar that's coming up next month. So for the immediate webinar that you're going to go through, or rather the training session you're going to go through, it's important that you pay attention to some of these itineraries because really these are gems that you may want to actually create and sell, and it's a revenue earner for you. So over to Carol. Carol, could you please play the audiovisual and take our guests through the deck that's been prepared? Thank you so much, everyone.
Sure, Mr. Vas, and thank you so much. Can we have the introductory video, please?
Somewhere outside of your ordinary, with people you've just met, in a place you thought you knew, it becomes more than you ever expected. You can just be you, and that's all you need to be. And no matter what, you always fit in, where the sights are as beautiful as the people, where the wildlife can get pretty wild. And even though you're not from around here, when you say goodbye, it's like saying bye to family. That's when you know it's more than traveling, more than a vacation. It's a journey, and it's just beginning, and it will continue long after you've returned home.
Good evening, everyone, and once again, a very warm welcome to each one of you. Like Mr. Vas said, we would be covering two of the major provinces today and what kind of itineraries you can build in by covering British Columbia and Alberta. So we would be covering major cities of British Columbia and Alberta. Now, before that, we all know, and those who have attended our webinar from the beginning, most of us are aware that Canada is the second largest country on earth. Towards the west coast of Canada, wherein we have the British Columbia province, it is surrounded by Pacific Ocean. Towards the east, we have the Atlantic Ocean, and towards the north, we have the Arctic Ocean. There would be certain poll questions that would be reflecting on your screen. So those who have maximized your screen, please do minimize it and please keep checking for the poll questions. It would be coming in between the slides. So Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. We have the Atlantic Canada. Central Canada consists of Ontario and Quebec. We have 3 provinces in the Prairie region, which is Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And towards the west, we have British Columbia. There are 3 territories in the north, which is Yukon, Northwest, and Nunavut territories. Some of the tips before you begin your road journey in Canada. So all the road signs in Canada are in kilometers. Talking on a handheld device is absolutely against the law. And in case if you plan your itinerary or plan a journey for your client wherein you need to stop by at a national park, then please do ensure that you purchase a park pass. In case if you want to stop by somewhere for fishing, then do ensure you have a valid fishing license and be very cautious when you are driving in summer traffic, construction zones, as well as wildlife corridors. Now in Canada, it is a right-hand driving and an valid Indian driving license with a chip that you can see on the right-hand side is permitted. Proof of insurance should be carried with you at all the times. Seat belts must be worn at all times. In case if you're driving with a kid, which is below the weight of 18 kilos, then a child seat is mandatory. And to ensure that you check the road conditions and the highway conditions on that particular day. So there are certain apps that are available. You can download and check these information. There are various types of vehicles from standard to mid-size, as well as various categories of SUVs and sport cars, as well as convertible vehicles. But when you choose the vehicle, do keep in mind that your airline will allow you a certain baggage allowance and your vehicle does have certain baggage allowance. So do ensure you put forth these points in front of your clients and prepare the itinerary accordingly. Some of the driving regulations are similar to what I said on cars and SUVs for recreational vehicle. Seatbelts are mandatory for those who are driving the recreational vehicle, but also to those who are seated behind. So all the seats in the recreational vehicle do have their seat belts. And while the recreational vehicle is in transit, do have your seat belts on. You can take a right turn in both the provinces, even when your red signal light is on, provided there are no vehicles passing by. Alcohol consumption when you're driving the recreational vehicle is completely no, it's against the law. But yes, when you park your vehicle at a designated area, you can consume alcohol because your recreational vehicles get converted into residence home. There are three major types of recreational vehicle. You have travel trailers, motorhomes, and park model trailers. Motorhomes are really fun and easy to drive. And there are three subcategories. You have Class A motorhome, which is like a large luxury bus. Class B motorhomes are like camper vans, and we have the Class C motorhome. Do attempt the poll question that is reflecting on your screen. Now, those who attended our last webinar, we focused more on the front country camping. Now, today we would be focusing or sharing on what the backcountry campgrounds facilities offer. So it usually offers tent pads, picnic tables, outhouses. Firewood needs to be purchased. You cannot randomly pick up wood from the national park and light your campfire. It is not permitted. And certain provincial or national park may give you, may have designated fire pit allocated, or certain provincial park you may have to share your fire pit. Some of the important things that you must keep in mind if you want to explore Canada and experience camping is that personal gear and personal safety items should always be there with you. Additional food and drinks should be stored, and reusable water bottles should also always be there with you. And always ensure that you respect the quiet hours of the national park and the campgrounds. Do leave your place as tidy as you see when you arrive in a national park, in the campgrounds, and especially when you're experiencing backcountry camping or when you are at the backcountry campground, do ensure that your food or food-related items are stored inside the wildlife-proof lockers. Let us begin with our first province, which is British Columbia. Now, Vancouver is the gateway to British Columbia, and we have several flights that are directly from Mumbai and Delhi to Vancouver. There are various car rental companies that you can check on the link that is reflecting on your screen that allows you to pick up your vehicle from Vancouver International Airport from the ground floor of the parkade. Some of the beautiful experiences of camping that you can experience or have in British Columbia is the Pacific Rim National Park Reserve. And I will be playing a short video on this as well, further as we move in our further slides. Canadian style surfing is one of the unique experience that you can have over here. To have a little bit of historic with some luxury comfort is a beautiful place known as Fort Langley National Historic Site. We have Yoho National Park as well as Glacier National Park. Now, Yoho National Park has a lot of opportunities of front country campgrounds as well as backcountry campgrounds, and it's very close to Golden, and we would be covering Golden as we move ahead. Mount Revelstoke National Park is in a beautiful city known as Revelstoke. There are various opportunities of front country campgrounds, recreational vehicle campgrounds, and you can experience one of the unique way of camping in microcube units. And the last is the Kootenay National Park, wherein you have options of authentic camping, front country camping, as well as the backcountry camping. Now, while you are in Vancouver, some of the beautiful day trips with scenic roads are when you visit the Harrison Hot Spring, which is very famous for relaxing in the warm mineral springs. There are also additional adventure activities, which is just 90 minutes drive from Vancouver. Steveston, which gives you the insights of the fishing community, a beautiful experience you can have, which is a part of Richmond, a 20 minutes drive from Vancouver. The Sunshine Coast is one of the best places for an island getaway. You can access it by ferry or by air. And there are various adventure activities like biking, fishing, golfing opportunities. Squamish is a beautiful place that is tucked between mountains and the ocean. So when you drive from Vancouver to Whistler, you can spend your day at Squamish and then stay for a night or 2 nights in Whistler. Now, once you are in Vancouver, there are beautiful places that you must visit, like visiting the Capilano Suspension Bridge or experiencing the Treetops Adventure while you are exploring the Capilano Suspension And since we all know that Vancouver is a city surrounded by Pacific Ocean, like I mentioned, Manhattan, as well as some beautiful mountain ranges. And to see this, you must opt for a harbor air flight scene, which gives you a beautiful aerial view of the entire city. The image you can see on the right-hand side. To have an experience or to have an information on the First Nations and indigenous culture, you must visit the Museum of Anthropology, which is at the University of British Columbia. There are certain activities that you can do during the summer and winter, like zip lining at Grouse Mountain. You also have the option of winter zip lining at Grouse Mountain during the summer, or visiting a Stanley Park should be there in the bucket list. Whale watching from Granville Island, or while you're in Granville Island, there are lots of adventure activities like kayaking, stand-up paddleboards, and so on. When you drive from Vancouver to Victoria, you take your vehicle to the port, which is in Vancouver, and then take BC Ferry, which takes you to the Vancouver Island, and then you drive to Victoria. Your BC Ferry will allow you to carry vehicles as well. There's a beautiful video I'm going to play on the Pacific Marine Circle tour. And in case if you want to experience camping in Victoria, there is an amazing place known as the Fort Broadhill and Fisgard Lighthouse National Historic Site. Here you can experience authentic tents, play certain games at lighthouses, and enjoy wildlife watching and bird watching. Let us see a short video after this slide. So we have Butchert Garden, which Victoria is very famous for. Butchert Garden has summer activities as well. Like there are light shows in Butchert Garden during the summer, whereas there are winter activities as well in Butchert Garden. Fairmont Empress Hotel, which you can see on the right-hand side, is a must-visit place, along with the Royal British Columbia Museum. And in case if you want to enjoy swimming, canoeing, and fishing, you must visit the Beaver Lake Regional Park. Let's see a short video on the Pacific Marine Circle tour, which also highlights Victoria.
So gorgeous.
So that was a beautiful video of the Pacific Marine Circle tour. Now, as we move ahead from Victoria or from Vancouver to Whistler, like I said, you can stop by at Squamish to spend your one day and then drive to Whistler. But once you arrive to Whistler, one of the unique ways of exploring Whistler is opting for the 4x4 safari tour that takes you up close to the Blackcomb Mountain, the image that you can see on the right-hand side. And experiencing the peak-to-peak gondola should be there in your bucket list because it gives you the beautiful, stunning view of the 360-degree view of the Whistler Village, mountain peaks, as well as glaciers and forests. There are various summer activities that Whistler has to offer. So Whistler is very well known for winter activities. And there are all types of winter activities that one wants to experience in Whistler. But Whistler also has an abundance of summer activities. So like you can see, the ATV all-terrain tours or experiencing fly fishing at Whistler, or one of the must-do is visiting the Velia Lumina, which is a light show amongst the forest. And bungee jumping is again a great experience that you can opt for in Whistler. Now, once you arrive to Camp Loops is again very well known for Sun Peaks Resort, as Sun Peaks Resort is the second largest ski area, and it has a lot of winter activities along with some of the amazing summer activities as well. But one of the unique ways to experience Camp Loops is visiting the Wells Grey Provincial Park, which has 41 named waterfalls. Spring is an ideal time to visit Wells Grey Provincial Park. You can experience whitewater river rafting, bear watching, as well as horseback riding. It's a unique way to experience Camp Loop. Another best way to experience or to understand the indigenous culture and see the beautiful views of Camp Loops is opt for a canoe tour, a guided canoe journey that takes you on to the South Thompson River. Along with that, you must visit the BC Wildlife Park. So the image that you can see of the Kermode bear, which is the white bear, and a black grizzly bear. So these are the different kind of animal species that you can see at the BC Wildlife Park. Camp Loops, like I said, also has a lot of winter activities to offer. You can experience ice fishing at the Tunqua Lake or cross-country skiing at the Stake Lake. Now, once you arrive in Kelowna, which is 2 hours drive from Camp Loops, one of the unique ways to experience Kelowna, which is known for its Okanagan Valley wine region, is experiencing the guided tour of Farm to Table. This tour takes you through a beautiful scenic view of the farms, agri-related sites, as well as some of the beautiful farm-to-table restaurants and wineries. Along with that, there is another option of experiencing backcountry camping at the Okanagan Mountain Park, which gives you a beautiful experience of camping in front of marine and beach campgrounds. There are various other activities like experiencing the scenic drive at Knox Mountain is one of the highlights that will enhance your road trip journey, or visiting the Myra Canyon Adventure Park during the summer, or hiking at the same park during the winter are some of the beautiful highlights of Kelowna. You must experience or walk on the waterfront boardwalk at the Okanagan Lake, or enjoy a 2-hour boat tour at the Okanagan Lake. Now, once we drive from Camp Loops to Golden, which is a 5 hours drive, one of the beautiful ways to experience Golden is opt for the Mountains and Vineyards Circle Tour. It gives you a combination of various activities like you can visit the wine country, hot springs resort, mountain biking, a little bit of adventure, as well as some beautiful historic towns. Likewise, you must take a gondola up the Kicking Horse Mountain Resort, which gives you a beautiful experience and view of the Canadian Rockies. Whitewater river rafting on the Kicking Horse River is again one of the adventure activities that you must not miss when you're in Golden. When you are experiencing the tandem skydive or gliding from Golden, it's really beautiful, as you can see the beautiful Canadian Rockies from the top. Again, there are a lot of winter activities like ice climbing in Yoho National Park. Like I mentioned, that you can also camp at Yoho National Park, or dog sledding, or experiencing the Kicking Horse Mountain Resort during the winter. This is one of the unique itinerary that I would like to bring forth in front of you. So you arrive in Vancouver, travel to Osoyoos. Now, Osoyoos is a unique place where you can see Pocket Desert, very well known for pocket deserts. It is right at the borders of US and Canada. From Osoyoos, you travel to Kelowna to experience the winery region, and then do a day tour at Revelstoke. So Revelstoke, you can experience camping as well as some of the amazing adventure activities that it has to offer. And then drive to Golden for a 2-night stay. It's either you can split your stay in Yoho National Park for 1 night and 1 night in Golden, or you can stay for 2 nights in Golden and then proceed to Alberta, which is our next province that we're going to talk about, for a 1-night stay in Banff or 1-night stay in Calgary. Now, Golden is known as the heart of the parks. And this video would be covering more of your Yoho National Park and your Glacier National Park. Let us see a short video on Golden, BC. I hope all of you enjoyed the video of Golden. And now our next province that we're going to cover is Alberta and various cities in Alberta. But the two places where you can enter in Alberta if you're planning to fly is the Calgary International Airport and the Edmonton International Airport. So you have car rental companies available on the ground level of the parkade outside door 8 at Edmonton International Airport, and at the domestic opposite on the roadway from the domestic terminal at Calgary International Airport. The link will give you detailed information on which car rental companies are available. Now, the capital of Alberta is Edmonton. And before I share the insights of various cities, let us see a short video on what are the activities and how beautiful Alberta is. I hope all of you enjoyed the video on Alberta, and let us begin with some of the beautiful camping sites in Alberta. We have the Rocky Mountain House National Historic Site. the image of which you can see on the right-hand side. It gives you a beautiful experience of authentic indigenous games. You can experience drumming, dancing, and daily campfires here. Apart from staying in teepees, you also have an option of staying or camping in Metis trapper tents, as well as strapline cabins that are available at this particular place. Waterton Lakes National Park is somewhere where you can spot bighorn sheep as well as grizzlies, a very beautiful place to see wildlife. It is basically connected to Glacier National Park in Montana, as well as the world's first international peace park. One of the unique way of experiencing this national park is experiencing the backcountry camping. Wood Buffalo National Park is one of the unique places that you must visit in case if you're planning for camping, as it takes you to the journey of the rugged canoe trips. It has various options of front country camping, backcountry camping, as well as one of the unique way of Pine Lake cabin rentals. And we have the Bow Valley Wildland Provincial Park. It majorly focuses on backcountry campground, and there are lots of facilities that are available, and it can be accessed via the Twilight Valley Trail. You would be having poll questions that is reflecting on your screen. Now, while you are in Calgary, Calgary has 6 UNESCO World Heritage Sites that it is surrounded with. And the day trips to Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump World Heritage Site, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is a beautiful place that you must visit to understand and learn the research of the archaeologists that have been working on this to preserve this incredible site. It is one of the world's oldest, largest, and best preserved buffalo jump site. Another unique place to experience the dinosaur fossils is visiting the Dinosaur Provincial Park or the Royal Tyrrell Museum, which is at the Badlands. Now, when you drive from Calgary to Badlands, you head towards northeast towards the Drumheller. The journey is very scenic and beautiful. You will cross some farm country, big skies, as well as your terrain will turn from hilly to flat, a beautiful experience that you can opt for when you are in Calgary. Again, you can visit the research center like the Royal Tyrrell Museum that I mentioned, which has a lot of information on the paleontological research, as well as a lot of collections, possibly 130,000 fossils of collections where you can look into. Baru Ranch National Historic Site is a beautiful place of experiencing the cowboy lifestyle. You can also experience 35 historic grub cooking in the ranch house. Now, while you are in Calgary, one of the unique way of exploring the city is by bike, because it has an urban bikeway and pathway system in the entire of North America, one of the best urban bikeway and pathway system. Calway Park Campground is the best place for recreational vehicle camping, and it is very close to the largest outdoor family amusement park as well. Now, when you drive from Calgary to Banff National Park, it's a 1.5 hours drive. But if you want to drive directly from Kamloops to Calgary, it is a 7.5 hours drive. There are various other activities and places you must visit in Calgary, like your Calgary Tower, which gives you the beautiful scenic view of the entire city as well as the Canadian Rockies, visiting the Calgary Zoo, which you can see on the right-hand side, or experiencing some of the beautiful winter activities like tobogganing, or visiting the Yamnuska Wolf Dog Sanctuary, which allows you to understand the lives of the wolves. And there are age restrictions, but you also can get up close to the wolf dog in this sanctuary. Now, when you drive from Calgary to Canmore or Kananaskis, you must experience the scenic drives of Kananaskis country that gives you the beautiful view of the Kananaskis Valley. You can either stop by thereby for a barbecue lunch or whitewater river rafting or various other activities that Kananaskis has to offer. But while you are in Canmore, you must visit the Canmore Cave tours. And during the winters, you have options of experiencing dog sledding or skating at the Canmore Pond, or snowshoeing and ice climbing as well. Now, when you drive to Banff, there are two beautiful scenic routes that you must take or must experience. Is your Lake Minnewanka Loop, which is a 24-kilometer drive, a beautiful scenic route to see the wildlife as well as some of the beautiful lakes. Bow Valley Parkway, which gives you a scenic view of the wildlife as well as the richest ecozone that Banff National Park has to offer. There is a beautiful campground that you can experience, which is a two-track lakeside campground, very well known for its recreational vehicles, as well as you can have tenting here, but it is very close to Lake Minnewanka, so you have the beautiful view of the Lake Minnewanka. Now, Banff National Park is right at the center, so it's a 1.5-hour drive from Calgary as well as from Jasper National Park. When you are in Banff, you must explore the Banff Gondola, which is up the Sulphur Mountain, or climb up Mount Norquay via Ferrata, or experience fly fishing on the Bow River. Banff also has a lot of winter activities like ice walking, ice climbing at Johnston Canyon, and various other activities. Now, when you're at Lake Louise, the best thing to experience is canoeing during the summer while you ice skate during the winter as the lake gets frozen, like you can see on the right-hand side. One of the iconic way is to see Lake Louise on the horseback ride, and a must visit to Moraine Lake before the sunrise is a beautiful experience that will enhance your client's journey at Lake Louise. Now, there are two scenic routes that you must not miss when you are in Canada. One is your Sea to Sky Highway, and the other that connects you from Vancouver to Whistler. And you have your Icefield Parkway, which gives you the beautiful scenic drive of the Turquoise Lake, Alpine Lakes, as well as you can stop by at the Weeping Wall, Lake Louise, and Athabasca Glacier along with Sunwapta Falls. This route takes you to the Columbia Icefield Tour. And there are various camping opportunities available at Jasper National Park, like front country, back country, and authentic camping as well. Now, when you're in Jasper National Park, you must experience the dramatic scenic route of while you drive to the Métis Hot Spring. You can experience the Maligne Valley Wildlife Tours. It's a unique experience that Jasper National Park has to offer, while you have the options during the winters to opt for the Maligne Canyon Ice Walk or the Winter Wildlife Discovery Tour. Now, Edmonton, like I said, is the capital of Alberta. You must enjoy the scenic drive through the Elk Island Parkway. There are chances that you might get the bison traffic jam, like you can see on the right-hand side of the image. And there are also options of private campgrounds that are available. To experience Indigenous culture, a little bit of history on Edmonton, you must visit the Fort Edmonton Park. Now, if you plan to drive from Edmonton to Saskatoon, which is in Saskatchewan, it's a 6 hours long journey. But there are various other adventure activities like canoeing at Elk Island National Park, while you also experience camping or visiting the Royal Alberta Museum. North Saskatchewan River Valley has a lot of adventure activities to offer, and you must not miss going to the Edmonton Mall, as it has a great, one of the best water park, as well as a great option of shopping as well. There are also great winter activities like visiting the ice castles, like you can see on the right-hand side, or skiing or snowboarding at various other places that Edmonton has to offer. We'll quickly go through one of the maps that will cover your Calgary. So you arrive in Calgary. This is in case if you're planning to fly into Calgary. You can also obviously drive from Vancouver to Calgary, stay for one night, experience the day trips that I just spoke about, and then drive for a 2-night stay to Banff National Park, 1-night stay to Lake Louise, wherein you do a day tour to Yoho National Park, which is a part of British Columbia, and then drive upwards to Jasper and then end your journey at Edmonton. And second unique itinerary that I would like to share with you is you cover Victoria. So you arrive in Vancouver, you cover a day trip to Victoria while you drive to Tofino. Tofino is again a beautiful place along with Nanaimo, which is in Vancouver Island. Drive back to Vancouver, or you can drive directly to Whistler, stay for 1 night in Whistler. You also have an option to stop by at Squamish, like I mentioned, and then drive directly to Jasper National Park. From Jasper National Park, you take a route to Banff National Park and stop by at Lake Louise. You also have an option to stay for one night either in Golden or Yoho National Park and then drive to Camp Loops for your one night stay and end your journey in Vancouver. We also have two prairie provinces, which is Saskatchewan as well as Manitoba. So there are car rental companies also available at Saskatoon International Airport as well as Regina International Airport, along with Manitoba. Now, Manitoba is known as the heart of Canada because it's right in the middle of everywhere. Winnipeg is the capital of Manitoba, and there are car rental companies that are available at Winnipeg Richardson International Airport as well. I'll quickly go through one of the journey that you can take from Calgary to Winnipeg. So you can pick your vehicle from Calgary, stop by at Drumheller to visit the Royal Tyrrell Museum, and then drive to Saskatoon, stay for 2 nights stay. There are a lot of adventure activities and beautiful places that you can see in Saskatoon. Then drive to Regina for a 1 night stay and end your journey with a 2 night stay in Winnipeg. So with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much. And I would like Mr. Murari Jha to take over, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Carol and Mr. Baz, for your excellent insights. Let's have a quick round of question and answer. I would request all the guests to please stick to two questions only. May I invite Mr. Kunal Sampath, Country Head, Sales Visa Launch. Kunal, please. Mr. Sampath?
Yeah, hi, sorry.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just a moment, just a moment. Sorry, I got another call in between. Just give me a second, just give me a second. I mean, honestly speaking, after looking at all the details which Carol was just showing, the only question which I should be asking right now over here is that when are we going to Canada? I don't think there should be any other question that I should be asking. But okay, quickly, this question would probably be for Carl or Carol, who have been the itinerary experts, and if they can give me a suggestion. So, how a self-drive in west coast of Canada can enhance your experience as opposed to a seat-in coach, because we do get requests as per seat-in coach, but which we try and push that sometimes if you really want to experience something, you have to look at like a private drive or a self-drive option. So what do you think will be the best way to convince these people who come for a seat-in coach experience into a private vehicle experience?
Well, Kunal, thank you for that question. That's an interesting question, right? So how do you convert a passenger that's really looking for a value proposition? I won't say budget, because Canada being a long haul destination is not a budget or an economy. It's not your
absolutely
average short haul or medium haul traveler. It's someone that's a little more established, someone who's capable of traveling for 15 hours across the world, and would probably be in a mood to spend anywhere between 10 to 14 days on their family or self exploration, right? So, but it's a good question. How do you convert someone who's looking at a value proposition from a price perspective into a Sorry.
Can I ask everyone to be on mute, please?
Yeah. So as I was saying, how do you convert a prospective customer into this kind of, I won't say high end, but it is a more premium service. So the first important aspect for our viewers and Kunal, for yourself, the first important aspect is to talk about health and safety, right? Because to them, that is paramount. To not only their experience and their holiday, but it's paramount also to their own personal safety. So from a health and safety perspective, it's important that you convince them and make them understand that a private vehicle is safe because it's sanitized prior to giving it to you, and you will continue to sanitize it. You will continue to keep it efficient in terms of its clean protocols, right? So there's
Yes.
not too many people entering the vehicle. There are not too many people exiting. It's only within the family. So that's number one. Number two, when you're looking at a price perspective in terms of comparison between a seat in coach and a private vehicle, it will not be all that expensive if you were to compare a family movement of 4+ people in a private car or a private SUV. And when you come to 8 passengers, you obviously will do a minivan. That makes sense because the amount that you would spend on the seat in coach would probably kind of average out, depending, of course. I mean, I'm assuming that the person takes a regular car and a regular SUV, not a completely premium ended one, right? For the premium ended segment of your clientele, you would of course recommend high end SUVs. You would recommend a recreational vehicle.
Absolutely.
The,
Absolutely.
the third part that you would convince them is that the new concept of experiential travel is travel at ease. We all know that the seat in coach concept is a concept where you spend one night in each hotel. You're woken up at 7 in the morning. You got to be down by 7:30. You got to finish your breakfast by 8:30 and inside the coach by 9. Or chances are you're going to have a lot of angry people if you get into the coach a bit late, right? So these are things that I think you need. These are selling points or selling techniques that you need to communicate to your audience so that they understand the concept of what's being sold. Having said that, you also alluded to the fact of how does one enjoy a road trip in Western Canada. And I think what one should understand is the seasons of Canada. The fall season. So I'm not going to talk about the fall season for 2020, but I'm going to tell you that 21 fall season, when the fall colors of Canada are experienced in October, is amazing. And that's a very different experience from the summer season of next year, 2021 in Canada, when everything is in full bloom. So you have the summer season, you have the fall, and I personally am a fan of the winter season because you don't often get to drive and experience the wonders of winter wonderland in India as much as we all don't drive up in Kashmir or up in the Himachal. So this is something that I'm a personal fan of, and I've driven last year and the year before last during the winter season, right from October until December last year. And for those of you who are with me on Facebook and Instagram, will see those posts, and it's an amazing experience. All the vehicles are winter ready, so there's this fear factor that we have that says you got to have chains on your tire. That's not true. All of these vehicles are winter ready. You don't need chains on the tires. You do need to observe speed limits because some parts of the highway might be iced as opposed to snow, so you might lose a bit of traction, and I've personally faced that on some slopes. So you need to maintain your speed constantly, but otherwise there is no danger whatsoever. You can drive across Western Canada or even Central and Eastern Canada, as I've done during the winter months. So this is a concept. I hope I've been able to answer your question, and perhaps some others who had similar thoughts. But really, this is what you should be pushing.
Thank you so much, Carl. I mean, it's really nice, to have so much of knowledge. As you very rightly said, a long haul destination like Canada is not. It's not that it's like a mass or a cheap destination. But yes, it's always nice to know how we can convert the holiday into an experiential travel by giving the appropriate tips. My second question, Carl, would be if you could shed some light and explain the concept of farm to table, or like different places one can experience in the West Coast.
Well, my personal favorite is the city of Kelowna, where they have a lot of vineyards, and they also have a lot of farm to table concepts. And I can't mention any private farms; it wouldn't be appropriate. But there are several of them if you were to research them in the Kelowna area. And last year, I had the privilege of experiencing that with my family as I took them around during Christmas. And I can tell you that the entire farm to table concept exists in its purest form, in the sense that you can actually go to certain farms and pick the produce yourself, right? It's not just going into the market and into their store, the farm store. You actually end up in the farmland, dressed in boots, and you can actually pick up the produce yourself, wash the produce, and they help you cook it. And you can choose whether you want a all vegan option. So we did a vegan option for lunch, and of course the wines are already prepared. So you can, of course, take a picnic basket and sit down there and enjoy some wine and and the food that you've freshly produced, looking at the vineyards. So all of these concepts are very much there in its purest forms, and I think they are a great add-on to a self-drive option, Kunal.
Thank you.
Lovely. I think the way you just described the whole experience, where it came to the be that driving in the snow, or right now just experience, explaining the whole concept about the farm to the table. Yeah, I mean, it's actually making more and more, it's making me ask you the question. So when are we going? I mean, I think we need to really open up Canada as a destination very fast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sampur. The next question is from Mr. Anup Kanuga. Anup, please.
Yeah, thank you. Carl or Carol, either of you can answer. I'm intrigued by this town of Revelstoke that you mentioned in your presentation. Can you share some more details what this city has to offer?
I'll take that question. So Revelstoke is a beautiful city. You can drive from Kelowna or Kamloops, any of the destinations you want to prefer, or you prefer driving. It's very famous for all the mountaineers, bikers, as well as lots of adventure activities. Again, you also can experience the Mount Royals Revelstoke National Park, which is a beautiful place to experience camping as well. So in case if you're planning to drive from Kelowna to Golden, you must stop at Revelstoke, as it's a beautiful place to experience adventure activities like hiking, biking, canoeing, kayaking, and so on.
Okay.
Anup, just to add to what Carol was saying, as an alternative city and my personal favorite, when I drove from Kelowna to Whistler, I passed a small little town called Hope. And it's cute, and it's appropriate that we all hope that we can get back to business as usual.
Yeah, thank you. My next question was on this Jasper National Park. You said they have some wildlife tours. So can you share some details on the wildlife tours in Jasper?
Yes, so wildlife tour, Jasper National Park is known for abundance of wildlife. You can see various wildlife like elk, mooses, deer, as well as various other wildlife that Jasper National Park has to offer. It is more of a seat and coach basis tour that has pickup from the hotel directly for the duration of 3 hours, and it's majorly during the evening. So it begins at around 5:30 and ends at around 8:30. It's a beautiful and a must-do experience in case if you're really interested in seeing the wildlife around in Jasper National Park.
Okay, and what is the difference between front country and back country camping?
Front country camping has all the facilities. Majorly, it is recreational vehicles or the tenting areas that you want to experience. Front country camping allows you all the facilities to access your outdoor theater, grocery stores, whereas the backcountry campgrounds is right into the wilderness. There are very limited options, and it is majorly those who want to get an experience of backpacker sort of thing. There are outhouses, you have sewage facilities, but that totally depends on the provincial and the national park that you're visiting in.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just
Thank you.
one last one, Murad. I presume you can pick up your car in one province and drop it at another province, right? There's no issue with that.
Good question, Anup. And really, this is something that I would request the trade take notice of. This is the difference between a travel agent and someone attempting to do it on their own. This is where a consumer requests or requires the assistance of a travel trade professional. It's a very good question. No, and the answer is yes and no. There are some places where you have to deliver the car back to its point of origin. And there are certain situations where you can pick it up in A spot and drop it at B. For example, let me quickly give you an example. I picked up a car in Toronto, and I wanted to drop it in Montreal. The option was I'd have to pay for someone, or I'd have to pay for the services for the person to fly from Toronto to Montreal, including the airfare and the transfer fees and his charges to drive it back. That was not an option for me, so I had to change the supplier and go to another car rental company that had the facility to drop the car back inside Montreal City. I don't want to mention the names of the companies, but this is where the difference comes from a travel agent, because you would be able to identify that by doing adequate research ahead. Now, this is, of course, an East Coast example. From a West Coast perspective, there are places, there are suppliers or outlets where you can pick it up at Vancouver Airport and drop it back at Vancouver. But in case you're departing from Calgary, then you must check at Vancouver Airport, or vice versa. You need to check with the supplier whether they have the facility to drop. In most cases, the large ones that exist at airports usually have the service that you can pick it up from A airport and drop it at B. But again, there are some categories of cars that they may not permit. So this is also something that you need to be watchful of. Cars that are usually used very frequently, where they have a high turnover rate, they usually don't have a problem with those vehicles.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Anu. The next question is from Ms. Vanessa Joseph, Product Head and DGM, Travel Tours, FCM Travel Solutions, FCTG India. Vanessa, please.
Hi, Carol and Carl, and thanks for the insightful session. And you've covered actually most of the points, but having said that, I do have a question. For the clients traveling into West Coast, sometimes they do tend to combine the road and rail combination. Now, going forward with the new normal that is there, how do we see the pricing for the coming season when it comes to RMR? Will there be a drastic change because, keeping the social distancing, etc. in mind, and when you have small groups going, how do you think holistically the pricing looks like, or will there be too much of a difference in pricing, or what should we keep in mind when we are suggesting a combination of road and rail to our clients? Because it is also another highlight for the West Coast.
Thank you, Vanessa, for that question. I cannot comment on the Rocky Mountaineer at this stage, and it's really up to them and their communications department to put out information when it comes to the Rocky Mountaineer. When it comes to Via Rail, one has to really see what notification they come up. So it's a little premature to be able to commit or comment on this segment of merging rail with road. I do understand that that's a novel concept. It's a very workable concept because there are people who would want the experience in the Rockies in a rail format and then come to the West Coast and switch to a drive format, right? And I totally share your enthusiasm on that aspect, but you'll have to bear with me that I cannot, unfortunately, at this stage comment or commit any situation when it involves Via Rail or Rocky Mountaineer. Allow us some more time. Perhaps maybe a month or two to evolve, and we should be able to have some better answers for you.
Sure. Can I ask one more question then?
I'm making a note of that.
Okay. Now with the new concept of RVs, which is becoming, as you mentioned, any guideline book or something, because that is something new which we'll be proposing to the Indian clientele. Any itineraries which we can suggest to them, because, drawing out the itineraries for that will be really helpful. So some suggested itineraries with, where the vehicles can be parked, so on and so forth, if they're using motorhomes, that will really be helpful in the form of an itinerary format, just a suggested itinerary. If we have few options, that would be great.
I think Carol will send across maybe a Word document
Sure.
or to your email, giving you some of these itineraries that she's presented. However, I will share this much, that when it comes to, you're talking about like SOPs, the most important aspect is that if you're going to rent an RV, a recreational vehicle, or a camper, the regular Indian driving license will not suffice.
Okay.
You will need an international driving license for insurance purposes. So even when I went with a group of media people, some time back in last year, and we did a self-drive with an RV. I couldn't drive the RV because I had not carried my national driving license. I was permitted to drive the SUV because we had 2 SUVs and 1 RV, but I was not permitted to drive the RV. That's against the law. So this is one clear thing that you should advise your clientele. I have been seeing a lot of reports lately where motor vehicle departments are allowing Indian citizens now to apply for the international driving license online. And I think that's an article that came out in the media a couple of days ago. So that should help you get your Indian prospective customers, application for an international driving license much more smoother and quicker.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. Next, we have questions from Mr. Subi Subramaniam, Manager Tours, Trailblazer India, TVA Chennai. Mr. Subramaniam, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Carl and Carol, for a very great presentation of Canada. I didn't know it had so many national parks on the Western Front itself. I have one important question as far as the national parks are concerned. How is the accommodation for rooms available? Is it be inside the parks or will it be outside? And secondly, what type of food will be available, especially for vegetarians?
Okay, hi Subi, and thank you for that question. So Banff, the city of Banff is really the only city in Canada that's inside a national park. Okay, you don't have hotels in national parks or provisional parks. You must understand that Carol mentioned the different types of camping, right? And yes, there are people who sometimes tend to just want to spend the night because they've been driving and they happen to be in a national park area and just park the car on the side of the road for some sleep. You will have a patrol officer that will come and tap you on the glass and say, sorry, you're not supposed to stop here. Because even stopping a vehicle for rest for extended period in the national park area is considered as camping, even though you're physically sitting in your own SUV or car. So you're not allowed to permitted to stop there and kind of, taking a break or so. You can stop for a photograph, but you cannot stop and park and camp and so on. So you will not find hotels. You will not find places where you can just, stop and spend the night. However, there will be camping grounds along the way. There are official camping grounds where you will pay a charge of fee and you will then be permitted to stop in those camping grounds. That aside, when you come to accommodation, Banff City, the city of Banff, is the only one that's technically inside a national park or a provisional park. And of course, Banff has, if I'm not mistaken, I visited 2 out of 3 Indian restaurants. So they very much have Indian food over there, and they very much have vegetarian food.
Right. My next question is, if you do road trips on, what are the chances of getting conducted tours into the cities that we visit? Because it'll save me a lot of time if I'm driving from one city to another on a self-drive, and then I park the car in a camping site or a hotel and then take a conducted tour. Is there a chance of getting conducted tours so that I can visit the most important places in that particular city?
A very good question, very valid question. So, Subi, it's like this, cities like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, they have their own version of a hop-on, hop-off.
Okay,
they do. Having said that, I do appreciate your question on parking. And like all major big large cities, it can be challenging. It's not like our cities in India where you can just find a gully and stick your car in, right? There are a lot of regulations in Canada. So the larger the cities, the bigger ones, it is difficult to find a good pay and park or a convenient pay and park. There is a little bit of a walk that you will have to do. I cannot disguise that in any form or manner, but I can tell you that it is convenient. It's not inconvenient. It is convenient, but you should be ready to walk a bit. And yes, there are their own versions of the hop-on, hop-off buses in all these major cities. When it comes to the smaller cities like Kelowna or Kamloops or Hope or Whistler, well, there are plenty of places that you could park and then of course take in the city, and they are all sorts of within walking distance, right? Even Banff, if you go into the Rockies, whether it's Banff, whether it's Canmore, whether you go towards Golden, which is a bordering between British Columbia and Alberta, you will find it's very convenient to park and to move around. So you won't have a problem in that respect.
Thanks, Carl. Carol, this is for you. Will it be possible to get some tentative itinerary for a 6-day, 9-day, 12-day?
Yes,
On Earth?
definitely. I can share that with
Yeah,
you.
just a skeleton itinerary, just to give you so that we have an idea as to how long does it take from traveling from point A to point B and on to
Definitely.
point C. So it would help us to give us at least can give an insight to the clients and much easier for us to sell it to them. That's the whole idea.
Sure. We'll
Anyway,
definitely share
thanks,
that.
Carl. Thanks, Carol. It was a wonderful presentation. Got to learn more about Canada in this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the questions. Up next, we have a special speaker amongst us, Ms. Tekla Mehra, Luxury Sales Director, India, Accor. She has been in the hotel industry for over the last 20 years. She has had responsible positions in the various chain of hotels in hotel industry in India and Singapore. May I please welcome Ms. Mehra.
And thank you everybody for your patience. I choose to believe that the best has been saved for the last. I know you've been through a lot of information, but I hope what you're going to see now is really going to leave memories for you, because we at Fairmont believe that we turn memories into dreams. So let's go ahead with that. And I'd like to set the tone by showing a short video of what we have in the western part of Canada. Okay, so I hope that set the tone for what you're going to see in about the Rockies. But before that, I do want to give you a brief introduction into what we do have in Vancouver, which is also one of the gateways into the Rockies. Just a quick insight into this, say that we have 3 very fine hotels located all in the city center, as you can see, very close to each other, but each one has its own uniqueness. And the Fairmont waterfront is very well known for the fact that it is linked to the cruise terminal. So I know a lot of people are taking cruises. So it's a very convenient way to get off the cruise and get into Vancouver. So Fairmont Pacific Rim. This is our newest hotel in Vancouver, a large hotel with very fine restaurants, a lot of ballroom space, appropriate for incentives, meetings, as well as leisure travel. Fairmont Waterfront, as I just talked about, links to the cruise terminal. Again, lots of event space and very, very well located. The Fairmont Hotel Vancouver, iconic in its own way. So as you can see, even from the images, you can see that each one has its own uniqueness, and yet they speak of being Fairmont in every way. Vancouver in itself is a destination. It's really a melting pot of different cultures. and lots of day trips that can be done. In fact, Whistler is just a 90-minute drive away. The highway sea to sky is great scenic drives. Going into Victoria and having high tea at the Fairmont Empress is quite a unique experience in itself. Now I will take you into the Rockies, which is really the highlight of Western Canada, and enough has been spoken about it. But here I just want to tell you about our 3 hotels that are located in Alberta, accessible by road, rail, or air. The Alberta properties are within the precincts of the Banff and the Jasper National Parks, and Whistler itself is, as I told you, 90 minutes away from Vancouver. You can get into the Rockies either, as I said, by road, rail, or air, and the Route 99 road trip is really a very fine one. In fact, I have shared a detailed itinerary because I heard there was a lot of demand for itineraries. I have shared that detailed itinerary with Destination Canada, and I'm sure that will find its way to your emails sometime or the other, or please feel free to reach out at any time. We first arrive at the Fairmont Banff Springs, which is Canada's castle in the Rockies. It's a 90-minute drive from Calgary, and it's a UNESCO site. It was built in 1888 and a great heritage site, even well known today. For those of you who haven't been to the Banff Springs in a while, a lot of things have happened. There's been some renovation. There's a new signature suite product that we have. We have a new bar which is renovated. So it's quite a brand new property that is waiting to welcome you. 11 restaurants in the hotel itself. And at this stage, I do want to mention, because this was a comment that came up earlier also, do we get Indian food? Do we get vegetarian food in this part of Canada? The answer is yes. We have a team of Indian chefs in nearly all of our hotels. So it's not unheard of to be able to get aloo puri or aloo poha for breakfast at any time. So that's something that really works very well. So every cuisine can be managed here. Then we go into the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise, really something that has been talked about. It's 45 minutes away from Banff. Again, built in 1890. It has been a great part of the Canadian cultural history and has had a lot of dignitaries visiting the property. You can see this view, this picture has come up in a number of instances, and it's on the bucket list of a lot of people. It's the only hotel that will ever be built on the shores of Lake Louise. And if you look at the view that it has, it's overlooking the beautiful Victoria Glacier. It's at an elevation of 1,600 meters. And imagine this beautiful place, all of 1,200 people in this area. It's peace and tranquility in every form. Going more into detail into the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise, all our hotels, yes, are big and very spacious and are iconic in every way. It's the view that really does it. People come here and they spend 1 day or 2 days, and all they want to do is just look out and see how beautiful it looks. So whether it's summer or it's winter, it's just a great view, great scenery, and you can't get enough. Going further into the Jasper Park Lodge now, this is a great Canadian lodge experience. It's 2.5 hours away from either Lake Louise or from the Banff Springs Hotel. And again, it was originally built as a tent city, and it's really a lodge. It's a lodging experience that you get, and it has played host to many kings, queens, and many, many celebrities. A completely different experience, totally. It's located in the Jasper National Park. Again, a lot of restaurants, a lot of facilities, a lot of things. So, even though you're not in the main city, you don't want to go anywhere because you've got everything here. There are lots of activities, whether it's summer or it's winter, there's something for everybody at the Jasper Park Lodge. again, I come back to the fact that, going from the Rockies into British Columbia is quite easy, and it can be done by road, rail, or air. Whether VRL operates all year round during the summer. Rocky Mountaineer, which has been spoken about by Carol, is very, very easily accessible. But do remember the Route 99. I looked at the itinerary recently, quite a lot of detail, and I think, with the adventurous Indian who's happy to drive now in Canada, it's really, really a great itinerary to follow. And going from Jasper to Whistler through that scenery is quite an experience. I spoke to you about the Rocky Mountaineer. The comfort of the Rocky Mountaineer or the VRL is something that has already been spoken about, so I will not focus on that. Now, the Shadow Whistler. It's a small town, and like I said, just 90 minutes away from Vancouver, a great drive and a great way to start your journey into the Rockies, especially if you're driving. This little town is really beautiful. It's very quaint. It's got restaurants. It's got a lot of life. It feels very good. It's got a really good positive vibe to it. So it's a must visit, even if somebody's just doing Vancouver, just got off a cruise and doesn't have too much time, just Vancouver and Whistler is also a really, really good option. The Shadow Whistler is the base of the Blackcomb Mountain. A lot of facilities available at the hotel. Again, very, very Indian friendly. We have had a good number of incentive trips going into Whistler and spending 3 and 4 days there, and they have loved it. We've had people going on skiing trips. So a great option for a winter vacation. I notice now that a lot of Indians are getting into skiing and enjoying the sport. So, I think Carl already talked about Canada being a great winter destination. I think we should not ignore this and try and promote this, because it's not all over India that you're able to experience the winter that we can in these parts of Canada, with the roads being what they are. So that is about a little brief snapshot into my properties in Western Canada. Of course, if there is ever anything that I can do to help, I'm just a phone call away. As a lot of you know, I'm based out of Delhi. And today in this virtual world, it's just a few minutes and you will have the information. Thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to turning moments into memories at Fairmont Hotels. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mehra, for that informative presentation. We have a couple of questions for you as well. May I request Mr. Jagat Mehta, partner, Trans Travel International and President, Enterprising Travel Agents Association. Mr. Mehta, please.
Yeah, good evening. Carl, I must congratulate you. Every time you are coming with a different theme and for the same destination, and it's very engaging, and definitely we are going to promote it when the right time comes. And Ms. Myra, you're so very nice, simple. Fairmont is a very well-known brand. I've got a couple of questions for you. One question is, when you say you've got Indian food is available because you've got Indian chef. Now, I just want to know, you've got so many properties, whether you are talking only about Vancouver properties, Indian foods available, or at all the Fairmont hotels, the Indian foods available, whether vegetarian or what. And second thing is, whether if it is available, whether it's on the menu, or we have to pre-order, or we have to book it in advance or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think food is really, really important, especially when you're traveling so far. To answer your question, the Indian food is available throughout our hotels in Canada. I don't think there is a single one of our hotels where if you ask, you will not get an Indian meal. But everything is freshly cooked, and it is, it's done according to the taste, according to what people want. Maybe somebody wants a Jain meal, somebody wants just a vegetarian meal. So it is always advisable to order this in advance, because it is customized. So don't assume that, yes, there will be something on the buffet which is Indian. It has to be done in advance, and that is really advisable, because you'll really get what you want.
Yeah. My next question is, 'cause you have got a large inventories, so many Fairmont hotels, but still we find very difficult to confirm the booking, especially in summer. So please advise us how to do it now.
Yes, I know this is something that has been brought to me quite a few times, and the last few years in particular has been difficult because uh, as a market in India, we don't believe in planning too much in advance. Whereas the Western market, especially from North America, from the US, people are planning 8 and 10 months in advance, so inventories are taken up. But I will advise you, we do work with a lot of consolidators and DMCs who hold some kind of allocations with them. So do reach out to them. If you have any challenges, feel free to reach out to me. The other one is the brand websites that we have, the Fairmont.com website. You will probably always find some availability. Of course, if it's more than 4 or 5 rooms, sometimes you will not be able to get that. But I don't think you will be disappointed. And well, fortunately or unfortunately, times are changing a little bit now. So things are not going to be difficult. But I think I should have an answer for you. So reach out to me and I'm sure I would be able to.
Yeah. So do you think that winter is a good time to promote your hotels? And will it be easier to secure the accommodations? Because now even the Carl was talking about the experience of the winterland and all. So connected to that, I'm asking this question.
Yeah, well, unless everybody who's heard Carl wants to head out and during winter, I think we should be okay. And the experience is going to be different. Availability will definitely be a trifle easier, though people are going to experience winter as well. But equally so, try and plan in advance. Try and get people to put down their itineraries in advance so that we can get their bookings done. But again, happy to help anytime.
Yeah. Thanks, Myra. Thanks, Carl. Looking for a much more, many more like this.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Ms. Mehra, we have the last question from Ms. Vanessa Joseph. Vanessa, please.
Hi, Tekla. Good evening.
Hi. How are you, Vanessa?
Well, I'm doing good. Yeah, it was a really insightful session. Thanks a ton. Tekla, I just have my question is when we suggest your hotels or any of the other boutique hotels which is there, especially in a self-driving or touring route, right now with the social distancing measures and other important procedures which the hotels usually follow, what things we need to keep in mind and also inform the clients? Or what kind of assurance do we need to give the clients with regards to the hotels?
You're talking in terms of hygiene and sanitation and safety given the
Hygiene,
COVID.
sanitation, social distancing, what are the measures the hotel is taking?
Okay, so Vanessa, Accor as a hotel brand has got into a collaboration with a company called Bureau Veritas. Okay. And all Accor hotels across the world are following the guidelines for this. We have an SOP in place. I'm very happy to send that to you because it's a very detailed SOP on what each hotel is doing. And most of the hotels have now been certified as what we call all safe. Which is an Accor terminology to say that they are following those guidelines. So yes. Rest assured, safety, hygiene, social distancing, everything is being maintained. And I am extremely happy to share that document with you or anybody else who would require that. But yes, absolutely to the core, Fairmont is absolutely safe and any Accor hotel for that.
Thank you. Thanks a ton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mehra, Mr. Mehta and Vanessa. I would like to request Mr. Carl Baus to extend the vote of thanks to all our audience who have been consistently been live and all our guests as well and as speakers. Mr. Baus, please. Can you please unmute yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Murari. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank Ms. Tekla Myra for being so patient. She's always been the last speaker. And of course, it's probably the best speaker for the last, but for being patient. And of course, our colleagues from the industry who had their questions prepared. I know we've not had the time to take all the questions that have come in from the floor. So Mr. Murari, if you can send those questions across, we'll try and get those answered. I want to thank you and the team at Informa Markets And of course, this would not have been complete had it not been for the support from Mr. Arun Pandya of Air Canada and the entire team at IRCC, which is Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada at the Canadian High Commission, and to all the participants who logged in and stayed tuned for 2.5 hours. It's been a great session. Look forward to seeing all of you next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will definitely be sharing all the remaining questions with you. We have got many questions from audience as well. I would also like to thank every one of you for being a part of this informative webinar on Canada, and hope you enjoyed viewing the same. This is Murari along with Destination Canada, Air Canada, and Accor signing off for now. See you at our next webinar. Stay safe. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Satyam, I can end this session, right? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.